Good evening and welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, MrSniDBitS.
So like two teams with that movie, it seems like either people love it or they hate it. Okay, I do too. I do too.
Yeah. BlackGirlMarvel.
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tylermakesfilms.
It's meant for us to kind of contemplate. Like, I don't think his response to me is completely appropriate. Like, it makes sense that he would react that way.
Allthemoviethings.
I think the thing why I enjoyed it more too was the fact that we were going to talk about it from this perspective.
Lieutenant Commander Ray.
I can watch them. I never find anything wrong with them. I love them every single time I watch them. And this absolutely qualifies on that list.
And me, the Real Study movie voice guy.
I probably would have been in love with this movie as well if I had watched it earlier, like when it came out, or maybe right after.
Let's go to the poster wall.
And thank you for joining us. This is The Real Study, Season 3, Episode 10, and we are doing a special. How that has not changed is beyond me. Things are weird here at The Real Study. We are going to be doing the Terminator films this week, and it's going to be this week, next week, and the week after, all Terminator, all the time. Skynet has taken over The Real Study, and we are here for it. Tonight, we've got a full house. This is the first time I've ever seen the poster wall full. Very cool to see all 5 panelists. We have a special guest, a surprise guest, a kind of a last-minute guest. Mr. Marvelite is here to join us. And, of course, we've got Lieutenant Commander Ray, all the movie things, and, as always, BlackGirlMarvel.
I just want to say, I'm going to lean into the whole fact that I'm listed as Tylermakesfilms right now.
Oh, you are? See, this is terrible. I'm an awful person. No, it's really because that poster wall, I don't have the thing for it. So you're filling in for Tyler. That's really what it is. So
I need to go work out now.
You got to do some puns too. If you don't do puns, we're going to have problems. Yeah.
Oh, do you even think I have a problem with that?
You're a resident pun guy.
Yeah. So
we know you don't. We're just letting you know. You don't.
So we've got one movie that was watched that is going to get talked about, although I do kind of want to talk about Saltburn a little bit more if we could. I know that's weird to bring
hilarious.
it up.
Go ahead.
Again.
We can talk about my movie next week. It's fine.
Oh, no, we can talk about both. I was going to let you go first, and then I was going to mention that I watched Saltburn with my wife, and it kicked me into overdrive with that movie. So, La, go ahead. Tell us about the movie you watched this week.
Okay, so I watched a movie called Good Grief. It's on Netflix. It stars Dan Levy. I believe isn't it his name Levy? Is it Levy or okay? Because I'm
Levy.
You never know. Levy. Yeah, I'm like Dan Levy.
His dad's Eugene Levy. So.
Levy. So
yeah. I just never knew how to say their last name. I always said Levy. I was just like, I don't know. Hopefully, yeah. Okay. And
he directed it too.
Yeah, he wrote it. He directed it, and it also has Luke Evans, Ruth Negga, and Hamish Patel. This film is pretty much like simply a story about a man who loses his husband and his journey from not only finding secrets out about his husband that he didn't know, but also realizing that like within his own grief, he's ignored the grief of his friends as well. With their own separate griefs. And it was honestly a very beautiful story, greatly written. I love the way that Dan Levy writes. I love the way he writes. I love the way he strings words together, the clarity in how he strings words together. Like, it's just amazing. Overall, all the actors were amazing. The film was great. And it's not your typical like man loses husband and he's sad and my friends are sad. Like, it's not your typical like story like that. Like, it's kind of like a basic story, but what he does within it with like how they react, how they do things is very unique. I think everybody should go watch it. If I had to rate it, I would give it like a nice 8 out of 10.
8. That's a solid rating. And that's a solid rating from La. She is what I rate high. I say La usually rates low. And not in a negative way. That's just the way we rate. But if you average us out,
true, yeah.
an 8's a solid rating from her. So yeah. So yeah, I did watch Saltburn again. I was really excited to let my wife watch it. Of course, she saw all the TikToks that people wouldn't shut up about the bath scenes, and and I say scenes because there's 3 distinct bathroom scenes in that film. I came to a few conclusions that we talked about it last week. We had specifically talked about would he have saved Felix? That was something that we brought up multiple times last week, and I came to the conclusion that no. He would never have. He decided straight up that this was his goal from get-go, and that Saltburn was his goal. One of the things that was really subtle that I noticed, and watching on the second time, like if you haven't, please watch it again because it is so perfectly littered with like it's there, like they're showing it to you the whole time.
Yeah, the whole plan's like
and I love that about the film.
Yeah.
But the grave scene is a really specific one where he does what he does at the grave. But we assume that's the only time he does it. But if you watch when Elspeth dies, he actually stands and waits at the grave when everybody leaves again. He stands there alone, which led me to believe, well, wait a minute.
No.
I don't know.
I wouldn't think he would do it again.
So the whole thing is we were lied to the entire film by the narrator. He lied the entire film. So I think that he ultimately was telling us what version he wanted us to hear. And it was... he left out things. So if you look at it that way, there's a lot that can be filled in that was left out.
Now I want to watch this film.
I don't know. He left out things, but then he revealed things though. So I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll have to go back and
he lies to you the whole time.
Just so I can see your perspective.
Yeah. No, and I'm not saying I'm right. This is totally subjective, but to me, I was like, holy shit! Sure. That it was so clear to me the second time around that there was I didn't feel like there was any room for argument from my perspective. So. And again, if you guys have room for argument, I would love to hear it. But I was just like, wow, I'm solidified. This is it. But yeah, watching it again is interesting. Now, Ray, did you end up watching Saltburn?
No.
No. Just not going to.
I think I'd have to be in a very specific mood to watch it. I don't dislike thrillers. I like mysteries. As a genre, I read a lot of mystery books. So a thriller in that way, I would probably watch it with my brother. I think if I could convince my brother to watch it with me, I would use him as my emotional support. But it sounds very emotionally taxing. I'm not in that mode right now in my life that I require something that emotionally taxing.
That's fair.
Listen, I completely understand where you're coming from because honestly, I couldn't sit through the entire Barbie movie, and it's because it was emotionally taxing in some ways. So, but that's because I have OCD. But that's a different story.
Ugh, men.
I don't know if I consider
I'm kidding.
If I fully consider Saltburn like a traditional thriller, though, either in that kind of
it's a darker comedy.
I consider it a thriller.
I'd say
it's a super dark comedy.
Yeah,
it's a dark comedy with some mystery added into it. I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's twisted and but it's not like this traditional thriller.
No.
So not as far as I guess the the topic of the movie, what the movie is about, but as far as the genre, do you have a comparison? What would be another movie that would be a similar kind of dark comedy like that?
It got compared to Talented Mr. Ripley, and I understand why it did, but I don't agree completely. It's similar in a way, but not completely.
Super thinly veiled. He takes on some elements of Talented Mr. Ripley. It's but that's just scratching the surface, barely. Yeah. So
it's kind of
really one of
in its own genre. Honestly, it's in its own
kind of genre defined. Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
Okay.
That's why they labeled it dark comedy thriller, because they didn't know psychological thriller. They don't none of that really yes, but no.
Okay.
Yeah. Saltburn is Saltburn, I guess. Yeah, I like the way you guys put that.
Saltburn, gonna Saltburn.
So
wait, did you watch Promising Young Woman?
I did not.
Okay, well, I think you should. Emerald is great. She's.
I heard what it was about, which is a very hard topic for me to watch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, I think
they
you
don't
could
show any of that.
Yeah, I think you can handle Saltburn.
Okay.
It's they're gross moments. I'll put it that way. There are some gross moments, but
it's.
But it's not. There's nothing
listen,
overt.
Don't listen to the TikTok stuff. They're kind of focused on just
one
like,
You know,
thing.
unless it's
specific
mine.
things, like
Unless it's mine.
right.
Right.
Unless it's my
No, yeah,
spoiler
it's
free
law, yeah.
version.
No,
Go
no,
check
no.
that
He's
out.
not
Your guys'
focusing
videos I
on that.
trust. Yeah, no, your guys'
You
videos
know.
I trust.
Okay.
I trust.
Go
I
to
think you might
spoiler-free
enjoy
version.
it.
You feel me? Check that out.
I think you'd like the shock of it all. I think you might dig it.
I
So,
think honestly, I would
lot
love
of
Ray to
layers
watch
to it,
it
yeah.
simply because it's very dark comedy, but also I think you would find a lot within its context, that I think that you would have a great like conversation about.
mhm.
Okay.
If I'm being
We
totally
will do
honest.
a video for the Real Study page.
Nice.
There you go.
I look forward to it.
Because I feel like you would just have like your brain would just move in a way that you would be like, okay, but if you take this and you go back and you bring it here, did you see what I see? And I'm like, no, what did you see, Ray? So I would be excited to see what you would have to say about it.
Now, oddly, I like the way you said that, Law, because the movies we're about to talk about kind of have that in it, but in a time warp sense. We're going to get into some like heavy discussion, I guarantee you, about what this all means.
It's kind of like a mix between like Cruel Intentions and Gone Girl, like a blending of
Yeah, it's like there's
they took of
all that stuff,
like
there was
elements
a
of
Cruel
that
Intentions
just
thing to it, for
just
sure,
like just mixed into it, and we're like Saltburn. They just
there's like,
But I would also argue that any movie that has the landmark as a character, I think to some degree, you would include Saltburn in that, because it is it's an important factor to the film. So anyway,
a lot of stuff,
but I look forward to that. So why don't we? Because we do have 5 of us. It's not something we have very often. So let's make sure that we can have plenty of time to talk about all these movies. Why don't we go right into boom? There is the current film we're going to talk about. That is, of course, Terminator.
there it is.
Nice.
I just wanted to show Bri. I'm gonna do a video about it. I just wanted to show Bri.
It's so cool.
It's like really dope. Like they got the A24, like the writing and
see-
stuff,
see.
and it has like that on the back.
I love that.
We're showing
I love that you bought this movie based on how we felt about it.
Ray.
Ooh,
It was free.
Nice.
Oh, okay,
like
that
that.
makes a difference.
Oh, was that your
That makes
A24
sense,
gift?
right? That's my
Your
A24
birthday.
gift for my
That's
birthday.
your
For my
birthday.
birthday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ex Machina. Me and my brother watched that movie a couple of years ago.
That's so dope. Yeah, what'd you think of Ex Machina?
It's on my list.
Mine too.
I don't want to take up too much time. We should probably get
No, please. Ex Machina fits right into the genre.
Like it?
I
what we're
knew. I
talking
saw
That
the
means
face.
she has a lot of thoughts. She has a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Are they like
Yeah,
mixed
especially-
thoughts?
No.
Okay, so solidly against Ex Machina, it sounds like.
You didn't like it.
So here's what I'll say, and I'll keep it short. I don't dislike the way the movie is made. I like the performances in the movie. I just don't love the actual. How can I say this? I didn't like the story.
Okay.
The extrapolation of AI and sentience as it pertains to non-organic beings, not new to me. It's one of my favorite genres. I believe in non-organic beings
Data.
being imbued with humanity. Exactly. But this specific storyline felt like a really, I guess I would say, mirror universe concept of that. Is that the AI was smart enough to fool them. I don't believe she actually gained sentience, which I think is a very, very specific distinction. Because a learning computer is going to learn, but that doesn't mean that it has the ability to reason for as sentience is being endowed. It was weird.
All right.
Oh, I remember this movie now. Okay, my bad. I seen it. Everybody, did we do this for the?
We
the
did.
pod
We
before or
watched it.
something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, my whole brain forgot about that film. No offense, it was nice, but Ray makes a lot of sense now that she said what she said. Yeah, I want to go back and watch it now. I like what she said. I'm gonna go back and watch it with you with that in mind, because I'm curious. Because that was the whole thing about the movie. That was the whole point of the movie. Did she or did she
didn't she?
not,
That
right?
was the
And I
debate,
think,
right?
Didn't she or didn't she? Right? And I think that's the whole point of the
That's
movie.
the thing, though. You're not supposed to like.
And I think
To know.
and I think
it was
people
left ambiguous on first.
Yeah,
Right,
but I think
exactly.
it's like, but also I think it's left for people to kind of like choose what side they think that they're on. And so if you think she did, you're right. If you think she didn't, you're right.
You're
It's
right.
like Inception. Did the top fall?
Yeah.
We don't. It's to me, I like films like that. I think
They're
that's
some of my
probably
favorite
I
films.
Like I
about it
said, I
most.
could go into heavy
Yeah.
detail. I think there's also a lot of discussion to be had about the usury of people. It's very much how I kind of felt. What was the movie that we watched with Robert Pattinson in space? The prison.
Oh, High
one?
Life?
What was that called? It was
High
very
Life,
much in the same
Dang, we watched a
the
lot of movies.
use of people as objects and not considering that, like, for him to choose the boy that he brought in because he didn't have any connections, and if something went wrong he could, like, nobody would miss him. I
Mhm.
hated that, because whether you agreed that
you have to like
someone
that.
is missed or not, that it has value even as himself. He is not disposable. He's not someone to choose as expendable. I hated it, that
All
part.
right.
I love that.
So, Law, you mentioned
I mean,
we've
your
watched a
take.
lot of films. I
Not-
just wanted to
not
put this
people
out
being
there.
used as disposable.
240 films we've watched for the real study.
Oh,
So
all right.
that's not a small number.
Okay.
We're reaching 250. We're through this series. We're getting close. So right in the middle of next month, we'll be
yeah.
at 250. That's pretty cool. Maybe we should pay attention to that and like
So look.
do something
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
At least make the screen look different.
Maybe
You know,
we should
so-
play. Crying. It's hilarious.
So Terminator. Everybody's seen this one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Law,
Yes.
Law, you've seen it, just not since you were a kid, right?
You had never seen
You had
the first
never
movie?
seen-
The first time we've seen
Terminator?
Terminator.
I'm excited.
I'm
What about
like that's
Terminator 2?
that was waiting
Yeah, I
for
know,
that. I
exactly,
was
yeah,
waiting. That's shocking. But it's cool.
Because as a
so that
kid,
means
because as a kid, it always came up on TNT or TBS or something like that. I never
Yeah.
like. I think this film came out the year I was born. Like I don't like.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
and so I never really paid
You were born
attention to
in
it. I
84?
think I dropped.
was.
Oh yeah. Okay. No. 2 years later. So I was 2. I was 2. I wasn't even born yet. So by the time it came out, it wasn't on my view. But then Terminator 2 came out in what, like 92 or something like that.
91, yeah.
And so like
You
I
were
was
just-
all into that
yeah.
one. I had a kid.
You were a kid.
So
I had
so
a kid
never
in there. I was like, it's a kid. I was like, hey.
hold on. So never in the idea of I love Terminator 2. Let's go see
Right,
what
let me
Terminator
check.
1's all about.
Why did that start it? Yeah.
Where's all this frame of reference? You know, like
But you don't need
Nope.
it. Like the movie does stand alone. You
Nope.
can, you can watch
it's
it.
great. But
Yeah.
No, it never crossed my mind. I was like, there is a first one. And then I dipped off. I was just like, okay. I was just like, it's a first one out there somewhere. I just never paid attention to it.
All right. Well then
I was watching the
this is a
film
good reason to
really
start
trying
with
see-
Law. let's do that. Go ahead and tell us what
Okay.
you thought of your first viewing of Terminator. The Terminator, sorry.
I was like, I've seen this movie before. I'm gonna find a scene that I know, and I didn't find one. I think the only one I found, honestly, was like all the way at the end when she's talking on the microphone. I remember that. That looked familiar. Other than that, I couldn't tell you nothing about this movie.
not even the like I'll be back scene. Like the most
no.
iconic line in
Wow.
When he
film
when he
history, like,
said
you
it,
haven't
when
seen
he
that
said
scene
it, I
just
was
in,
like,
random.
Ah.
when he,
There's no-
I honestly thought the "I'll be back" thing was from Terminator 2. I remember.
No, come with me if you want to live. I'll be back. All the like those big ones are definitely
Didn't
original.
know it. So when
Yeah.
he so when Kyle Reese was like, when Kyle Reese was like, come with me if you want to live, I was like, he said it
That's
first.
from Terminator 2. Whoa.
How is that possible?
The connective fiber for that is so
I said he
important.
said it first.
Ray, she's like, I'm done. I'm out of here.
We're gonna get a lot of that tonight. Like, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's fine. I still
At least
love
for
you
this
guys.
film.
That's
At
all
least
that
for
matters
this
to me.
For this.
I still love you guys. So I was like, what? And then he was like, I'll be back. I was like, I see. I said, okay, they brought it back for the second one. So like, please believe. I was in my living room like, oh, I see what people talk about when they talk about this. So overall, I thought Terminator, I thought it was fun. It's such an 80s movie though. It's such an 80s writing because I don't know how y'all love For a Lifetime. Y'all was running most of the time, but I get it. It's it's that like trauma bonding, save my life, type of
I think it's bigger
thing.
than that, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Survivor thing. But I do like when I watched this, I was like, oh, so Terminator is a fixed point in time. Like, these things because he taught you these things, but you wouldn't have taught him if Kyle didn't teach you, and you wouldn't have taught Kyle if Kyle didn't come forward. He had to come forward. It was like, I was like, oh, this is a paradox. I was like, it has to happen to happen. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So that first viewing, I was like, oh, I should have watched this first movie a long time ago because it put a lot of that into perspective.
Well, they start doubling down in the second one on that paradox.
Yeah.
So like,
I was like, this is quite interesting. Shout out to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said like 8 words, but his performance was immaculate. I thought his performance was great.
Did you know he actually he was going for Reese, and Cameron was like, no way, dude.
Yeah, he would have been Kyle.
Yeah. He was like, no, you're the Terminator or you're nothing.
That's a beautiful interview where he talks about it.
Yeah. It's a great interview.
That's pretty. I can't see that at all. Like, I can't see that.
Neither could Cameron, and that's why he's a good director. Like, so.
No, for sure. Like, I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that at all. But I could see like there was an aesthetic back then, because if the actor to play Kyle Reese buffed up, he could have been Terminator. You know what I mean? Like,
no, they looked interchangeable to a degree.
They do look interchangeable. Like if Schwarzenegger could like shrink it down, which you can't, but still, like he could. Overall,
he's been working on that the last few years. He's trying to really old man it up. So
has he?
No, he still works out.
Has he? Like, I thought the film had some really interesting like shots, interesting like the music for me I was like, this music is just iconic across the board. I don't think you'll find, I think you will, but I feel like this goes into history as like iconic like music. Because you could just play like the little down, and everybody don't know where that comes from. They're like Terminator, like they'll just like go crazy and like Terminator, and it's it sounds like a simple tone, but it's like it reads so much, and it reads so much on screen that it's like, it was a couple of times they faked me out. I didn't think I was gonna get faked out. I got faked out when what was that when he blew up the gas truck or whatever, he blew up the semi, and then he like died, and then I was like, well, that's anticlimactic. I was like, great. I was like, that's great. And then I was like, no, he's a Terminator. He's not dead. I was like, he's not dead.
Yeah.
I was just like, he's cybernetic underneath that. And I'm like, why are y'all hugging? Kyle, you know this. But it was a couple of 80s things that I was just like, so we gonna wait till he shoots you? Okay. But overall, like, I let those things go because that's just the time. Like, I'm not gonna fault it for that. But I thought it was directed well. I thought it was acted nicely. Shout out to Linda Hamilton for kind of like leading a film. I will say this though. I'm happy the doctor died in the second one, now that I see where he came from in this. Or did he die? Or did he just get hurt or something like that? He just got hurt or something like that. Right?
I think he was not happy with the poison in his veins. I don't know. That wasn't great.
I mean, he never gets it pumped into him.
Yeah, but it's still like you could see him sweating from it. Like he was definitely messed up from it.
Yeah. So whatever, he deserved that and much more from what he, because instead of helping somebody that you think might be crazy, you're like, I can make a gold mine off this man. What are we doing, sir? You're a whole doctor. And you don't care to take care of this man who's saying that people are from the future trying to get killed. Also, I'm just like, so all these Sarah Connors is dying, and my man, I know he tells you a crazy story, but that don't negate the fact that all these Sarah Connors is dying. Right. and I'm just like, all the cops need to die. And luckily for me, there was a Terminator involved, and they all died one by one. A lot of famous faces in this too, but somebody else can go. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Let's go with Mr. Marvelite, since he joined us specifically to talk about Terminator. And then I want Ray's take, absolutely, because she's the reason we're doing this series at all. So, Mr. Marvelite.
It's all Ray's fault.
What made you like Terminator? Gotta join you guys.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. I'm completely glad that Law's first experience was before this show, because that means that anything I say will not sound like I'm repeating her, which is tends to be what happens on this, because I'm so focused on what I'm
waiting.
thinking.
I love it.
As for Terminator, let me just say
nostalgia.
this. Terminator and Terminator 2 are two of the most keynote memories in my childhood. When Terminator 2 Judgment Day came out, I wore the VHS tape out. I knew every word. I had to be very careful when I repeated it, because as you know, what was it? It was 1991. So I was maybe 9 or 10 years old. Saying the profanity was not something you really want to do in front of your mom. But thankfully, my grandma stayed up late with me and let me watch it. And I would watch the movie, rewind it, watch it again. Like, it wasn't one of those things where it was just like, oh, let's put it on.
And the rewinding took too long. Just saying.
Yeah, we didn't have the rewind thing. Like, it was like you had to wait, and so that was a important memory in my childhood. Terminator was something I grew up with, and I wasn't as excited. Like you think of like movies in the 80s that really, like 70s and 80s, that got your attention. Like Alien, everyone thinks about Alien. Mine was Aliens. Terminator, great like breakthrough franchise. Terminator 2 was my thing, and so I always went back to the originals to find out more of the story, which I guess is not what everybody does now. And so I grew up watching them, and they were on television all the time, so you'd go back and watch them, and of course, and then you go to the video store and ask to rent it, and then your parent had to show their ID because I was way too young to ask for them. One of the things that really struck me as interesting and amazing with this story was the fact that, just like Lara was saying, like, they didn't have time. Kyle Reese was infatuated with Sarah Connor way before he ever went back in time for her. And there was this, John, you realize later on, John fostered that. He knew he was going to be his father. And so he basically encouraged this kid to fall in love with his mom, from afar, as this person in history, knowing that as soon as he would fawn over her to the point of where, yes, he knew he would protect her, because there was nothing he was going to allow to happen to this woman that he idolized as a kid in the desolate wasteland of the world. And then second of all, knowing that he had been instilled by John, who was instilled by his mother, all of the things that John needed to learn at a young age, he knew, and it was basically orchestrating everything that Kyle needed to do to teach his mom, and then put his mom on that path to then be trained and raised so that it would echo back to him, so that he could be that leader. It's this.
So in a long way too, it's almost like he taught himself.
Right.
He taught himself,
but it's also like a ping pong.
But he also knew he had to set
exactly.
her. And what's amazing with Terminator was, even though James Cameron probably didn't intend to do it at the time, because you never know, especially in that era, if it was going to become a franchise. This was a $6.4 million budget. That's unheard of at this time, to be able to do anything with any special effects. And it made almost all of its budget back the first weekend. And you've got this movie where they lay the groundwork for the Connor tapes. They lay the groundwork for the picture. They lay the groundwork for all of these things that, if it became something bigger, that's great. Instead of them going back, and I think what some of the other movies did that I didn't necessarily like, beyond Terminator 2, where they retconned things to make more sense. These movies laid a groundwork, and they just kept going with it. The Terminator was fantastic. And I think one of the greatest part about it was, for Sarah, it was Stockholm syndrome until she realized it was all real and true. And for her, when she knew that Kyle was the only person that would be able to save her, it was natural for her, because she was already concerned about his mental health when he was in the police station before the Terminator attacked. She was already concerned because he had saved her in certain instances. She just thought he was crazy. But the moment that she realized that he wasn't, she was able to 100% completely trust him. And
what's your first name? She says, because she actually trusts him at that point.
And she wanted to know about her son and about the future.
For me, I'm just saying, trust and love to me are two different things. I understand his reasoning for falling in love with her immediately, because he had years to fall in love with her, to learn about her, to understand her. She didn't have that same time And that's just me. To me, that's just 80s writing. It
But I mean,
doesn't
it's
take away
movie
from the story.
Movie
It
Remember-
doesn't take away from the
Movie
story
love.
for me.
It's movie love.
I
though.
just
Like,
it's,
Well, no, not
it's
only
movie
that.
love. It's how like a lot of stuff is written.
There are
it doesn't
tiers
take
of
away
love.
from the story.
They can have
But
puppy
here's-
love and
it's
have
just,
sex,
you know-
and then there's a baby.
yeah.
They don't have to have
Right.
That's
marriage
not my
love
problem
to
either.
have
Yeah,
baby.
they don't have to have a marriage either. Yeah.
Just
But
saying.
here's the thing we also forget. She gave John everything that he needed to know to make Kyle the man that she would immediately fall in love with. Kyle was
Right.
the man that Sarah was looking for. I mean, the relationship, the guy wasn't there for her. He was constantly, calling off. Like, she wanted reliability and consistency. And then on top of that, Kyle was all of those things that she also liked. He was probably her type, everything else. And so whether she
Like a
was the
rocket
one
trench
that
coat.
caused Kyle or caused John
Yeah,
to
he
look for
did.
Kyle, or John already knew Kyle. Like you remember the cycle. She at least laid down the work. Like, he was her type, and he made sure he was her type, and everything else. So
Oh, you think that John
it's very-
hand selected Kyle?
you can't really, in the sense of that there's a loop where the loop really never starts, because if we go back and
I
start
do
doing the
think
whole
there's a
timey-wimey
beginning to the
thing,
loop, actually, and I
Yeah.
want to discuss that. I actually think
Well,
there's a
yeah, I
beginning.
think it's too soon to like start talking about
The loop,
paradox.
yeah,
Let's
the
just talk
loop, the
about-
loop,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just talk about the movie
Mhm.
itself first,
Yeah.
and then we'll get to that.
Because the paradox
that's
is the
why-
crazy part.
but that's why I was excited, because everyone calls me the Marvel guy, whatever. I was a Aliens and Terminator and Jurassic Park kid.
You're the
Like,
franchise
that
guy,
was-
right?
Yes.
That's what I realized. I was like, as soon because how you feel about Jurassic Park, and then when Terminator came up, I was like, okay, he's like me. If there's a big franchise and it's great, that's mine. Like, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna own it. So I'm with you there. I'm with you. Let's see. So Ray, you decided to bring the Terminator series to us. You wanted to do all of them, and I love it. You're passionate about these films. Let's hear
I think
from
I
you.
recommended this before I was a part of the podcast.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
You did.
She was like,
You
maybe
did.
they'll have me on and we'll talk
a
about
long
it. No,
time
I'm kidding.
ago.
I'm kidding.
So yeah, no, similarly, like, I was
Look at
very
God. Won't he do
young,
it?
surely too young to be watching this movie when I started watching it, and I was the same, watching it on loop. Like, we did later on have like one of those like separate rewinders.
Rewinders,
And like
yeah.
I broke the rewinder and I broke the tape. Like, that's how many times I rewatched this
Yeah.
movie. I think like it's a beautiful story as it comes to like the destiny of love. Like, I think sometimes like specific people are brought into your life for a reason, for either the purpose you serve for them or they serve for you. And so when he meets,
I mean, even if it's for
John,
like just a few moments too, like
exactly,
in this case, they don't know
like
each other that long.
there's a tether,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
believe, in time,
tether, that's
and
I like that word.
there's, like, certain
Mhm.
people that are supposed to be in your life, and when she's kind of this isolated person, she's living with her friend, and her friend has
Mhm.
a boyfriend that she like really loves, but she kind
Lighter.
of, you see her ambles, like she seems ambling in the movie before she
Mhm.
meets Kyle.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, kind of
Yeah.
this untethered, if I'm using that word. And so
Mhm.
when she kind of is just off to the nightclub by herself, and that's where she's like, something is going on, and their purpose intersects, and he is there to save her, unbeknownst obviously to them, to create the man who would save the future. I love the storyline portion. I love obviously the action. I
Mhm.
think the action is a fun background, a fun vehicle to tell the story. But their love enduring through time is what connected to me the most about it.
Mhm.
Obviously the evolution of technology and the evolution of purpose, specifically, and the Terminator being manufactured for its specific purpose and then still defying that. Like, it's really dedication, determination, persistence. You really can't beat will, and I think that that's what the franchise overall says.
I like that. I do think the movie does a good job originally where you don't know that Reese is a good guy. It's two people that come from the future. We don't know why.
Right.
And you don't know he's good until he says, "Come with me if you want to live." Like there's that moment. Brian, what did you think of Terminator? I'm sure you've seen it dozens of times, so I don't really want to talk about your first viewing necessarily, unless you remember it well.
No, I do not remember the first viewing, but like most people, it's I've grown up with this movie. I've seen it countless times. I've probably seen Terminator 2 even more. I mean, like it's literally right here, but yeah, so I mean this is a great movie. It's a classic film. It like launched pretty much like an entire genre, really. And I on this viewing though, like I was being a lot more critical of things, where I was really like digging into it and really looking at things. And I mean, what's funny is like James Cameron wasn't the one to direct this. Like he had to like make this crazy deal because he really wanted to direct this film, but he was coming off of like what was it, like Python 2 or some like ridiculous like B type movie that he did, and they didn't want him to direct this movie. They're like, you wrote the script, that's great, but we don't want you to direct it. So he sold the rights for like $1 supposedly so he could direct the film, and that was the deal. And that's how he got to direct the movie, and like then the rest is history, and he made this iconic film.
He made a great decision.
Yeah.
Look at him now.
He bet on himself, really. You know what I mean?
No
like,
facts, and I love that.
Do this. Yeah. So, but yeah, like I love what Ray said. You know, but like that's something I think is lost a lot. You know, it's like we focus so much on the sci-fi of it and the action of it. You know, but going back to like that critical eye thing, I will say this does feel and look like a $6 million movie. You know what I mean? Like there's some camera work here and here that's shoddy, or even just like there's like a few simple pans where I'm just like, oh, that's rough. That's kind of a rough. It's just a pan. It's just a pan to the left. Like, come on.
Not to mention the audio in the film is atrocious. Like, like no offense. Like, I love the film, but it's the
right,
audio
exactly.
hurts.
But like we can pick it apart. You know what I mean? Like, but like with what they did a great job with what they had. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. And yeah, it's still really enjoyable. Some of the effects don't really hold up as well.
Nope.
Except for like like
the mirror
makeup
scene.
effects, I would say.
Yeah,
the mirror scene's a little rough, but yeah, again, still not enough to like really take me out of it. So.
Well, and at the time it was cutting edge. Like Stan Winston was breaking new ground when he was doing that. So
no, and the Terminator itself, like the actual like full endoskeleton
looked great.
Was amazing stuff. Like
it looked great.
Yeah,
I was
it even walked on its heels
when he was walking.
Clank.
He was limping.
Right.
Well, and I like that they did.
I was like,
this was still like he did, because he did have a limp, and he got screwed up in the ramp.
Yeah.
But there were attention to details you didn't normally see in a movie in '84.
Yeah.
So like when the Terminator goes through the flames, his hair gets all fucked up, and it stays that way for the rest of the movie. He looks terrible for the rest of the movie.
That's a little shout out to the script supervisor. So any script supervisors out there, we love you. They're in charge of continuity and trying to pay attention to every little thing. That's why sometimes they're going to miss things, but that's an incredible attention.
That's why he was in the mirror, like.
Yeah, no, but like he just looked like somebody.
His hair.
Somebody just went to town on his hair, but they left it that way, and every bullet, hole for the most part. They were pretty good in 2 about this too. They were really good about if he got shot in the face, like he kept it
exactly.
But that's also Stan Winston and them working on the special effects and all of that. For me, I'd seen Terminator 2 first. So I was 91. I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
My parents took us to see this in the theater, which I was surprised because it was a rated R movie. I was like, oh, cool. Not that I didn't go on my own at 14 because, it was the 90s, who cared. But they took us and they were like, check this out. And it's great. because it got me into this one. This film it feels like an open nerve is kind of happening all the time. It's raw in everything because it's naked men in the beginning, which is not something you see at the beginning of a movie. You've got people just getting effed up, left and right. Watching Bill Paxton get killed, right away. Or the other gentleman, the other guy that was with him is the same actor. I always forget this guy's name. I'm going to see if I can get him quickly here.
He's been in every 90s
Well, he was in Buffy twice. He played two different characters on Buffy.
He was in Buffy twice. He was in Charmed twice.
Yes, he was that guy. Brian Thompson is his name, and I think I've mentioned him before on the show. Brian Thompson deserves so much credit because he's one of those side actors that fills in a role, but him and Bill Paxton fill in those punk roles perfectly. Even though they're just there for a moment, it really makes you go, holy shit, these guys are big. They're not little dudes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's in everything.
He is. But what's crazy is he's a Shakespearean actor. Right? That dude has been trained.
Whatever I can't remember what he said. He was like, whatever, fuck you, whatever he said.
But
I was like,
great.
The gravitas.
No, it was so he brought it, right? One line.
I believed him. Yeah. He was a punk with a knife that was going to kill him. I believed him.
But that's why Schwarzenegger, that's what I like with Cameron, though, because he was like, hey, dude, you need to tone this back and just be a robot. No offense to you, Arnold, but you are much more robotic than you are a smooth actor. He learned acting.
You're not an actor yet,
He did get to a point
not an actor yet,
with Maggie where he was acting. The dude learned it in his years. But in the early days, he was still, he was a machismo. He was just
a bodybuilder. He was a bodybuilder.
So
he was just a bodybuilder.
Great choice, and he's scary as shit. One of the things that I found most intimidating, and this is true, this is actually one that there's so many things that go from 1 to 2, but this is a subtle one. The truck that he's driving, and then again, they do the truck with the Terminator, is a front, a cab over style truck. And they look much more monstrous, and Maximum Overdrive used one as well, where it's just scary rather than the nice cab style trucks that you see everywhere now. Cab overs have them; they feel monstrous, and if you film them from low like Cameron does, it gives you this holy shit, it's another monster. And this movie actually talks about the machines in two ways. They show, and even Reese flashbacks to the machines because he sees the equipment, and they show the garbage truck in the beginning coming down. There's a whole element of our machines and how maybe we should worry about them in this film. I actually like that. Yeah.
I enjoyed that when he was in the car. He was in the car and he saw the construction and he was just kind of oh my God, this is how it starts. Kind of thing. I was like, I like that.
Even the answer machine message is they mention, she mentions you're talking to a machine.
Machine. But that doesn't mean you can't be nice to it. I was like, don't kill Ginger. She's so sweet to machines. Don't do that to Ginger. She might be a little freak, but don't do that to Ginger because her boyfriend freaks, bro. I don't care what nobody say. The way he was talking to her on that phone, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah."
Did anyone else notice who that actor was, though? That plays her boyfriend.
He looked familiar.
The same actor who plays Slider in Top Gun.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it.
Rick Rossovich.
I kept saying Slider. You stink.
It's Rick Rossovich. You're totally right.
Yeah.
That's wild. And then, of course, Lance Henriksen, plays a nobody cop and gets killed, which was weird.
Yeah.
Another person that got killed by Terminator.
That one black man cop, I can't remember his name.
Paul Winfield.
Paul Winfield. Okay, he's a part of my childhood. So tough. That man was in everything.
Agreed.
I was crying up.
So
I was like, "Hey, it's him," but I don't know his name. I was excited.
One of the other things I really like about this movie is that you think the story is about Kyle Reese to some degree. Obviously, they're going to kill Sarah Connor, but you're following Reese because he's the first human we come in contact with, and we watch him kind of establish himself. But the story is literally about Sarah Connor becoming a hero, so it is a hero's tale, just a little different than you'd expect. And she does even have the freak out moment, I'm not doing this, and then accepts her fate and defeats the Terminator on her own. So I do love that it's kind of a different approach to a hero's tale because you assume your main character, one in 84, is going to be a male. You also assume that the one they show you first, there's a lot of things that they mislead you in these films. And they do good in the second one in the mislead as well. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Do we want to talk about the other one and then we talk about the paradox? Because the paradox, I think, is going to be quite the discussion. I
feel like the paradox should wait until the end of the movies.
I'm not a fan of talking about the paradox because it's kind of it's kind of boring to me actually, because it kind of just is like it ruins the film. It's like if you just go like just enjoy the film, like you can't think too much about this time travel stuff and all these paradoxes, or else it's, I don't know. I just can't, like, I don't go into Terminator 2 and I'm just like, oh man, all these, because it's just not good. I was like, I can't
talking
enjoy
about
it.
the paradox defeats the purpose, because in the franchise, and I don't want to like go into the other movies, but there are multiple timelines. It isn't one timeline. There are multiple timelines established in the films, and the fact that the point is the future surviving, right? To be able to save the future, and each timeline's different attempt to do that is the point. So the paradox of the loop almost doesn't make sense because it changes. So why?
But not really,
Well-
because the players don't change though. Like I get what you're saying, and I understand, like, if you guys don't want to talk about the paradox, we don't have to, or we can. It doesn't matter. Or me and Sniddy can do a thing where we talk about.
Oh no,
it
we
together,
can.
like,
I'm just not a fan of the whole paradox thing.
Oh yeah, I know. I
You
just
know, it's
like,
just
but you know, everybody
it's
has some
fine,
choice.
yeah.
If they don't want to talk about it, they don't have to. But like, to me, it's like the players don't change. There's always a Sarah Connor. There's always a John Connor. These are always the two people that have to be a part of this, and a Kyle Reese, because a Kyle Reese has to be there to make a John Connor. So these three people are the paradox. These three people are like, they're the loop that keeps all these, even all these other alternate timelines or worlds to kind of keep going, because even without one of them, we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have a paradox even without one of them. I just find it interesting. For me, it doesn't take away the movie or anything, but I kind of like it.
It's not those characters.
Yeah.
Now, I will make a confession, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to be on this episode, because I'm one of the few people who, beyond Terminator 2, I don't like to acknowledge them as existing in the universe at all. Because if you look at the,
Ray said,
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
I feel like the best version of Terminator 2 is even the director's cut of Terminator 2, where they ended with John Connor being old at the same playground that blows up with the atomic bomb, and Judgment Day didn't happen. But at the same time, like, I've gone back and watched all of the other films, and whether I've slightly enjoyed them or disliked them at all, there are things. But even just with those two isolated films, I think the biggest thing was that I came to understand was the very thing that you try to prevent, you will inevitably cause. That's basically how it was. The machines were trying to kill Sarah Connor to prevent John Connor, but in doing so, caused the very issues that caused Kyle Reese and for them to create John Connor in the first place. And then in Terminator 2, going back and trying to undo the problems that were caused because of them trying to prevent in the first one, and then creating Skynet, they inevitably cause those problems. And there's always that possibility of, okay, what did they miss? Once the butterfly effect happens, it's just going to keep happening. And unfortunately, whatever events of Terminator 2 created Terminator 3, which I think was the biggest atrocity of all of the franchise. But that's for another.
Seen it once. I've seen it one time.
Oh,
and
I've seen Genesis twice. I'm just saying.
The only thing that I liked in Terminator 3 was the fact that Dr. Silverman came and he just gave up at that point when he saw the Terminator again. He was just
Spoilers.
Like,
oh, I'm kidding.
That's funny. Yeah,
so
he's just like, I quit.
So I want to approach this because I do like talking about the time loop stuff. Mostly because it's driven me nuts my whole life. I've always hated it because I'm just like, this is bullshit and I hate it and it's driving me nuts. So this viewing though of the two films, I kind of solidified my feelings about it for the first time. And in order to be in a loop, you have to have a beginning, right? So they obviously are coming in from a linear timeline that is then disrupted because the machines are stupid and sent something back in time, which totally screwed this thing up in the first place. And it's really a lesson in why Skynet needs to stop meddling in the past. Because every time they meddle in the past, something backfires on them every
essentially,
freaking time.
like,
that's the loop.
They
like
created
the
John
loop,
Connor.
and it sucks
Like they
for them.
created John Connor.
Right.
So it's
I'm
just one
gonna
of
have
those
to do
things.
a separate video series externally, which I've had planned
Right.
for months, about the evolution. I think
Damn
each
time.
movie does not exist in a vacuum.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
whether James decided by making the first movie it would
Mhm.
create this franchise. I think the franchise is so much deeper than the loop, because
Yeah.
there's the evolution of the technology. When
I think they have to double down,
Let me
though, Ray,
stop.
is what I'm
I
kind of
can't-
mean.
I don't-
You know what I mean? The reason the technology
I
gets
agree
better
with
is they
you.
double down, right? And every time they double down with their
Right.
technology and send it, and they go, well, we can't go back to
Yeah.
the same time, although they try that again, and that doesn't work either.
Right.
So like they keep trying different things, and none of them are working. Now, whether it's universal, like a multiverse, that we can discuss.
that's
And when we
where-
watch the films, I will probably pick up on that, and I'll look for it.
No,
But
and that's where I was kind of mentioning the factor of persistence, because the attempts is what kind of you see escalate in each movie.
Mhm.
My
Could
thing,
talk forever. Go.
No,
my,
please.
my thing is like if Skynet and this technology is so advanced and supposed to be so smart, wouldn't they have like known ahead of time that like, oh, if we do this, we're gonna create this like thing. Maybe we shouldn't do time travel at all.
Single-mindedness.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
The single-minded purpose of
Yeah.
killing John or keeping him from being born did not make room for them to create scenarios to defeat him. I
Right.
think that is why we don't see that.
I
Because
also
they were
don't
like,
think
okay,
they've ever
well-
dealt with time travel before. This was the first attempt at it, and
Well,
they
yeah.
didn't know the
No,
consequences
Absolutely.
because it would be
Absolutely.
They would
unknown
understand-
consequences.
But you think they would understand the concept of the butterfly effect though?
Maybe
'Cause
not.
that's a known thing.
Sure.
But I feel like that's how you know. That's how you know that even though they're
This is why I hate
advanced,
talking
they're
about
still
this stuff.
machines.
No. You're right.
They're kind of like still machines at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like even though you're advanced, you're
But
still
the
gonna
thing
have
is,
something.
they're always
You're still gonna
learning
have
stuff, too.
something.
True.
But I feel like that's you can say that about any genius, right? That you can be a genius, but you can still make mistakes. You can be so smart that you still miss very.
You're saying
subtle things
Skynet
that
is
other
a
people
savant, is what you're
would
saying?
miss.
I'm saying, yeah, but the thing is, like, Skynet's not supposed to be like, I don't know. They're supposed
Oh no,
to be
I get
better
it.
than
No, I
humans.
get it.
They're
I
supposed
just
to be-
I just like those
you know.
conversations that they are supposed to be better than humans, but they show that they're not. So like
Right.
you
But
kind of
I'm
not
just saying, why would
at
they
the same
make mistakes?
time.
Is all I'm saying.
Well, I didn't hear that, Brian. Say it again.
All I'm saying is like, why would they make mistakes? So they're supposed to be machines.
Why would they
But
make
but
mistakes?
think
That's
about
a
it. They're
fair
man-made
question.
machines.
Well, that's also a fair
man-made
point. They are
machines, so
man-made
they
machines,
already
yeah.
they
To a
already
point.
start off with a
Flawed
flaw.
bias.
They
Well,
already start off
They
flawed.
started off man-made, but eventually
Yeah, to a point. To a point.
No, they do
Exactly.
become machine
Where-
To a point.
machines.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
To a point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Matrix. The Matrix and this are very close in that sense.
Yeah.
That the machines are
Oh
very
yeah, yeah,
similar.
there's a lot.
So, so since we're still on the topic of Terminator, because we haven't rated the film, I did want to bring one thing up, and it's something that I thought was interesting. If you look in the credits at the very end of the film, that specifically gives credit to a writer, and that writer wrote Outer Limits. And what's funny is if you look it up, that writer actually settled out of court for the fact that this
Yeah.
was completely stolen from him, completely. And they put it in the credits and admit it, but they settled out of court. So he basically just ripped off Terminator. Made a good movie. I'm not gonna say that, but this is not James Cameron's idea.
I mean, but let's call a spade a spade. Neither is Avatar.
No, that's true.
Pocahontas.
He watched Pocahontas, he watched Ferngully, and then he made a movie.
Yeah,
You're not
Ferngully's
wrong.
like, ooh.
You're not wrong.
He watched
Dances with Wolves.
He watched all that.
Let me make an
Yeah, and he was like,
war-
but what if?
war for Ferngully.
What if they were 12 feet tall?
Right.
Hmm?
And on a different
They
planet.
connected to it, like.
I do
Here's
love
the original
Hawaii.
You
idea.
know,
Let's go
So
to
it's
an
like,
island.
is anything really original?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean-
no, but there's a difference between giving due credit. So like they could have paid the guy and given him credit in the credits, and it would have been fine.
Could have said inspired from
Right.
the short story.
But he wrote it and then pitched the script as his own when it wasn't his. It was completely
Mhm.
ripped. And then he like, not that there aren't elements of Cameron in the movie. Absolutely. The Stan
No, of
Winston
course.
Terminator is not from the Outer Limits. None of that. It's
No.
the story of the time loop and the like. That's what was
Yeah.
stolen.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because I didn't know that till today when I was looking through it. So,
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
but copyright's an interesting thing. So.
It is.
Uh,
it's crazy.
especially in
By the
modern
way,
world,
this is-
we're all just like pitching lots of things we shouldn't be putting out in the world.
In science, though, just by the way, there's an official term for this. This is the grandfather paradox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's rate the Terminator, and then let's move on to Terminator 2, because I know we're all itching to talk about some hasta la vista, baby. Let's start with La. What did you think of the Terminator? For those on the podcast audio, she's thinking.
I give it a 7. It was nice. I'll watch it again.
Nice. How about you? Tony?
So you want to rate it highly because it's part of your childhood, but again, at the same time,
Do you?
it's very I do. It's very dated. There are things, just like Ryan said, like honestly, if this were made today, this would be on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's just how it works. It had a lot of that campy feel to it, and I think that's what appealed at that time. I'd say I'd probably give it a solid 8. There are things that always could have been improved with it, but ultimately laying the groundwork for the franchise that only needed to have 2 movies, and it being self-contained in what it was, and then making for what is quintessential one of the best sequels to a good movie. Like, I'd give it a solid 8.
Except for Empire Strikes Back. Sorry.
Or Aliens.
I'm an Alien over Aliens person.
Shameless plug.
That's tough.
Yeah, no, I know these are tough, but I came hard down on the Alien side. Ray, what do you think of the Terminator?
I would rate it at no less than a 9.5. I think it is, for me, I don't honestly care what it looks like, because really I'm watching it and I enjoy what it looks like, but the story is the part that I always loved. And the story, I think, is a 9.5 for sure.
All right. That's a solid rating. How about you, Brian?
I'm with Tony here, and I'm giving it a solid 8. Yep.
That's funny, because I am also going to give it a solid 8, and it's because of the attention to detail. It's because the movie still works. It still has that great tension. You buy the characters really well, regardless of the puppy love. I understand where Law's coming from, but I forgive it because I've seen it happen. Humans do that. I really think.
Fault it. I'm just
I know. I'm just saying that's why I forgive it. But ultimately, the special effects were cutting edge. I will never fault special effects from their era. It's just hard not to notice them because they're so good now that it's hard to juxtaposition modern special effects with something from 1984 without. It's just hard. Right. It's like it's true with Terminator 2 as well. I was like, yeah, that was cutting edge for 90. Yeah. And it's not not to fault them. But 8, 100% an 8. It is a really good film. It definitely deserves its place in film history. So
for sure, yeah.
That said,
I love that I got the lowest rating. I'm sorry,
but that might be nostalgia goggles. Like there's an element of that.
Honestly, I feel like I'm not knocking anybody's review of what they love about it, but nostalgia does take a part in a lot of what we watch. And I didn't grow up on this film. I grew up on the second one, so just you wait.
Yeah, no, it'll be a 9 or better for her. I'm almost certain. But no, like there are so many different types of biases. There's recency bias. There's group bias. You see it with a certain group of people, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to deny that it was great, even though really you thought it was a piece of shit, but you didn't want to say something. Yeah, and then later on, you're like, yeah, well, So there's. I think ratings are important to revisit, and this is why I think revisiting film is also important. If the film is worthwhile, if you hated it. If it's not acclaimed and you hated it, walk away. If it's acclaimed and you hated it, give it another shot 10 years later. That's just my rule.
And by the way, 7 is not a bad score for a film that you just watched.
True.
Right.
That is that
solid 7, right? That's where we mark the 7.
It's a solid 7. I don't think it's bad at all. It's just one of those films where, like, maybe on a second viewing, like Kristen did, like, watched it the second time and she enjoyed it more the second time around. And maybe, I'll give it another go with all of your thoughts in mind as I watch it, because I might explore and see some new stuff that I haven't seen before.
All right. I like that. Let's move on to the second Terminator film, Terminator 2, T2, if you're from the 90s. Judgment Day is, of course, the subtitle to this film. I mean, really, it's a lot of the same. Not necessarily the same crew, because it's a different production company. It's definitely a different group that brought this. But Cameron brought it. Brought himself back. They brought the same actress back. They, I'm assuming some of the same crew came back to some degree. But
Stan Winston came back.
Stan Winston Cruz came back and did an even more fantastic job.
Yeah, man.
So I'm gonna do this the other way around. We're gonna literally go in reverse order. So we're gonna start here and work our way back to Law. That way we kind of nice spread. The one distinct thing I noticed when I turned this movie on was, holy crap, they upgraded. They upgraded beyond belief. They did a different and wider aspect ratio. The coloring was better. The sound was better. I was just shocked at looking them next to. Everything is across the board better. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It was just
they learned from the first one.
I literally was like, holy crap! That was just stunningly different.
Well, you see this evolution of Cameron as a filmmaker too, because he had done Aliens before this as well,
and The Abyss,
and The Abyss. Yeah, exactly. And so you see these evolutions of not just technology, but him as a director. Yeah, and this is I was 14 when this movie came out. John Connor or seriously, Edward Furlong, was born the same year I was born. So literally, I'm sitting there watching this kid on screen going, okay, he's my age, quite literally. He rode a dirt bike. I rode a dirt bike. I was like, I am this kid. I love video games. This movie was made for my exact demographic at the moment. And which was weird. But it was an experience in the theater. I still remember it distinctly. I have thoughts of this movie to this day. It was kind of like what you guys were talking about earlier. Whenever I see Miles Dyson die on screen, when they're breathing, I still randomly, I'll just be walking along in life, right? I'll walk along in life and all of a sudden Miles Dyson. I'll just it'll come to my head and I'll just think about it.
If I see anything Miles or anything Dyson, I always think about him.
Or somebody my wife even mentioned somebody goes, it makes you think about him. And I'm like, dude, that scene, he is such an amazing actor. Yeah. It made me believe it. It was one of my first major on-screen deaths, what a way to go too, right? That's brave. That dude was brave. Oh man! And he had been shot for the second time.
I know.
And it made no difference. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the saddest part.
Well, we don't know that time, but
very true. We don't know the timeline. They're very true.
And according to the director's cut, it did. But we'll go
right.
So in one universe, good job, Miles.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk too much about it. I just want to bring up the truck thing that I brought from the first movie. So in this one, you get another cab over truck that is just scary as all get out. And it's chasing after a little tiny dirt bike with a little tiny boy on it. And the tension is so ridiculously high. But the cinematography throughout that entire sequence is beautiful and brilliant. And
the build up.
Yeah. And the music, the dun, 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 really brings it in. Yeah. The whole film... It's gold. It's just gold. Yeah. Brian, what do you think of Terminator 2?
Man, yeah, I love this movie so much. Especially so I got this Lionsgate one. This thing is beautiful, by the way. It's one of those classic Lionsgate. Amazing. And the 4K.
Oh, I should have got my T2 one.
The 4K transfer of this is so good. It's gorgeous. But
not like RoboCop, where it looks like somebody put green on the film.
I don't know. I haven't seen the RoboCop 4K transfer, but anyway, this is great. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this movie. I know every line. I used to have the score. When I was a kid, I had this. I have all the music in my head. It's just, and I still love it. I'm still reacting to it, it's the first time I see it.
Absolutely.
I'm still
oh,
is this movie?
He got on the back of the car. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just and the third act, what is going on? The third act is just balls to the wall insanity. Just action. You do not get a break.
They knew what we came for.
They knew what we were here. It's just 2 and 11. It's so good. I love it. Yeah.
Ray.
Next.
So just kind of piggybacking off of that, and then I'll come around. When he lowers himself in the steel and you see him and you see him growing throughout the movie to the point where he says, I understand, because he feels like, yeah, this, I know that you sent me back, but also it's kind of unsaid, but like, I'm glad that you did. And it enriched my life. Like, if you can enrich a machine, he was like, this makes sense. This mattered to me. And because we still have to do this. I still have to go for you.
Yeah.
Is stunning. Like, and I know we were saying about James, like, I don't necessarily think that maybe his skill is in writing a unique individual story, but he is one of the best storytellers. He can tell a story on film and connect. And I think that he absolutely did that. And in carrying on the storyline from the first movie into this one, that it was so beautifully done. You see the Terminator, he's got that same kind of ominous, like, we don't know at first, but eventually we learn he is there to protect him, to keep him alive, to still, again, that save the future portion. I think that Sarah's growth as a character, that she was really just kind of that single-mindedness, but then she relearns the love for her child, not just the protection for the future, that she has to love him as the person he is, not as the person he's destined to become. He is a child. And he needs that love. And as much as their relationship was difficult, he still was like kind of talking crap about her to his friend, but he was like, he still made, when he realized, and he was like, well, we have to go save her, like, my mom, like, regardless of whatever.
She was telling me the truth the whole time, like,
exactly. The Terminator was like, we can't, you are the purpose, and he was like, that doesn't matter, this moment, I have to save her. I just, like I said, I love the technical aspect, and believe me, I'd be standing in this living room cheering every time I watch it, because I love it so much. But it's the continuity of the heart in the story that really blows me away every time. I've never not cried when he lowers himself in the steel.
Oh my God.
I'm crying every time.
It's terrible. Yeah.
I did cry when Dyson died this time. I which I've never done before. I think I'm just connecting
I'm done
as a
both
father.
times,
So
but go ahead.
Mr. Marvelite, what do you think of Terminator 2? I think we already know, but I want to hear your specifics.
Well, if Brian's pulling out like the DVDs and stuff, this is how I got it, because I was that.
Will you put that closer so we can see that? Let me put it a little closer so we can see the head.
So there's the Blu-rays in there.
I was like, where are they? Okay. That's so funny.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, I absolutely love this.
That is a hell of a collectible.
Oh, wait, hold on. No, I need new batteries. The light thing lights up, and it actually.
Oh, the eyes glow.
You actually hear the brain processing. You can hear the
process. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
I didn't even know that existed. How did I not know that existed?
Yeah. There's another.
You've done us a disservice. Get some batteries.
There were 2 collector's editions that came out. There was the one with the skull. If you can go on Amazon, I think you can also find it. They have the one with the arm. So it's the arm.
I've seen
Cyberdyne Systems.
The arm one's kind of cooler though, because
only thing is it's plastic, but at the same time it still looks awesome when you have it on your
They're not going to be making these out of steel. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Even when they call them steel books.
Why not? Why? Yeah. For the amount that you pay for these?
I know. It feels like it should be real.
But this movie came, I was a little bit younger than MrSniDBitS, but at the same time, this movie became my obsession. And of course, if you remember anything about the way that they marketed this, the toy line was off the wall bonkers and fantastic. It had nothing to do with the movie. People complain about the Batman Returns, like,
those are like off the wall too.
Everybody forgets Kenner was doing stuff that parents should not have been allowing their kids to be part of. Aliens versus Predator toys and everything else.
Oh, the Alien. They had like buffalo and like freaking spiders and
they had the ones where they blow up and then you could have the characters like fall apart and But Terminator 2 was one of those films for me where you almost identify yourself with one of the characters in the thing. Even as a kid, you either look up to them, you either hate them. I loved how they brought Silverman back into it. He's the director at the hospital. Sarah kind of gets her dig on him. I loved that. I loved how Sarah thought she was the main character at a point, and then you realize it's her son. Like each movie has this point where you realize that the person that you think it's about is not who it's about. And whereas Terminator 1 was not Kyle, it was Sarah. Terminator 2 is not Sarah, it was John. And then you can go on the other ones and see it as well.
I would argue, as what Ray said, though, it's a little about the
that
T-101 too, though. Like it's kind of their father-son story.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I was kind of getting to. John set this up where, you know, he's able to in a essence, again, give himself something that he didn't have. Sarah didn't have a lover. He provided a lover. He didn't have the father figure. So he provided the Terminator to give him that what he needed, but then also help him understand the need for sacrifice.
Is he his own psychologist or something? Like he's over here trying to like fix his childhood trauma? That's what it feels like.
You almost have to wonder like what like and again, like you get to Terminator Salvation, you meet John and stuff. Like I really feel like they were kind of building up for John to be this much older and wiser individual that maybe we never got to see in the future installments. But it was definitely one of those things where, again, like you said before, we got some of the best cinematics with wider angles and everything else. One of the best movie posters, I would say, in a long time, because you just have Schwarzenegger on a motorcycle with a shotgun, and everyone was sold. It was one of those things where it worked so well, and it expounded so much more on the story than the first one did. And it was kind of fun because for the first movie, you never really got a lot of the Terminator. I mean, you got the self-repairing, you saw the glowing eye, and then finally in the last few minutes of the installment, you get to see the Terminator in all of its glory. And it was, again, it was a sci-fi, it was a I'm trying to think of the word, special effects marvel at the time. And then you start off Terminator 2 with the Terminators as an army marching through the desolate wasteland, crushing skulls. And you're like, this is as cool as it can get. And then they go, let's go ahead and introduce you to the T-1000. Yeah. And you're like, oh my goodness, it's gotten even worse. And if you didn't know, we got Robert Patrick as the T-1000, but it was going to be Billy Idol.
What?
And he actually pulled out. So be thankful Billy Idol got in a car accident.
Well, it also I think Robert Patrick is also happy because this movie sparked his career. Like this movie launched
things are meant to happen the way that they're supposed to happen.
I can do a whole thing about Robert Patrick and his role. Like, I mean, and just like how genius is that too? Like, because Arnold's physically imposed. He's huge. He's a giant, and like, so you think like, also the concept of making him a police officer, the T-1000, just from a tactical perspective already, that like gives him such an advantage, and he's already an advanced Terminator, you know, and then they juxtapose it with giving this like less physical stature actor play this super like, you know, Terminator. Like I love that.
He was also told he couldn't blink or breathe on screen a lot. They like minimized that on purpose, which is wild. But sorry, go ahead, Tony.
They expounded on the impersonation of the Terminator. Like when you saw in the first movie, the Terminator like pretending to be the mom. Like you didn't get to see like much more of it. But then that scene where the T-1000 is impersonating his foster mom, and like he just takes out the father. And you just see how visceral this character is. Yes, it does.
They're good people. There was nothing wrong with his foster parents.
And even the parallel, John as a kid, as a hacker, he's hacking into ATMs. He's hacking into the key systems. Of course, he's going to send a Terminator that he hacked into to go back and take care. Like the parallels were phenomenal. And you can still go back and dissect things all the time.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Bob, what did you think of Terminator 2 this time?
I was wondering if when he hacked that Terminator, he said easy money also.
He did. No, you know he did. He at least thought it. He's
like easy money. Yeah.
And when he sent it back, hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah.
100%. La, what did you think of Terminator 2 this time around? And with Terminator in your head this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the difference, honestly. I will always say, okay, Ray.
Ray leaned in. She was like,
I know Ray said, you don't say. No, I will say that I truly believe the recipe to a good sequel is taking bits from the first one and incorporating it into your story correctly. If it's a true sequel, you know what I mean, or The Force Awakens, either way you want to slice it.
With a lightsaber.
I mean, that was just Empire. That was just Empire Strikes Back. I mean, that's just a New Hope. I'm sorry, that was just a New Hope. But I'll say for T2 is my movie. T2 is the one I grew up on. T2 is the one I visited all the time. T2 is the one that I have on steel box in my thing somewhere that I gotta find. But I've always loved this film. To me, you can't get any better than T2. I mean, you can, but you can't. You know what I mean? Because like you can in the sense of like, I mean, you can try for sure, but you can
parallel, like you can get to its level.
I mean, I just feel like you can in the sense of like technology. Technology is way stupid now than it was back then. Right. That if you recreated this shot for shot, it would be ridiculously amazing if somebody just had spare money to recreate this with like the effects and stuff that we have now. But that being said, in 91, I can watch it in 2024 and it still holds up.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I can watch it in 2024 and the storyline still hits home in a certain place. You know what I mean? I can watch it in 2024 and be like, that was funny. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
This movie, there was so much funny stuff in this movie.
You can't do that with a lot of movies that took place in like the early 90s or the 80s or however you want to. Like, you can't do that with a lot of movies. And for that, this film stands like top tier by itself, alone on its own Mount Rushmore of like amazing sequels. You know what I mean? So I love Edward Furlong in this film. Nobody else could be John Connor at this age.
Yeah,
I don't care who you get. Nobody can be John Connor at this age. I love like Ray said about the first one. Which, if I'm being honest, the first one, the story was nice, but I didn't connect to it in a certain way that made me like overly invested. But I was still invested and I still enjoyed it, so it was still a good story. I was in this one, okay, from the beginning, and then the moment I saw that there was a child that I could relate to, because I was like 4 or 5 when this movie came out, but I remember this movie more than I remember The Omen, and I watched that when I was like a child. So,
we discussed that. You've watched a lot of movies way before you should have.
Way before I should have. So for me, this one was like right up my alley. It had like some crude humor, you know what I mean? It had robots, it had kids my age, it had my boy from Salute Your Shorts. Shout out to my boy.
That's right.
I can't remember his name.
His friend, right?
His friend.
His friend from the
arcade.
arcade.
Yeah, his friend.
Yeah.
Come on. Salute Your Shorts, man. That was my show growing up.
Yeah, man.
So which is amazing. So I don't
Annie
know, this
Cooksey,
film for me
by
is
the
just
way,
like
is his
everything.
name.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It's gonna be in my brain forever now. For me, this film was just top tier. This is a top tier, top notch film. And if you strip away, I think all films, when you have like sci-fi and stuff attached to it, or like superheroes, it's easy to get bogged down by like, oh, they fly and they shoot lasers and they 100%. Do this. But if you took away that aspect from T2, even though it wouldn't be T2 if you didn't, but still, if you took that away, the storyline itself could survive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The storyline itself could survive because at the basis of it, it's just a little boy that wants a family. And essentially, his older self knows that and creates it for him. And like part of me in my brain, I always think to myself, because I've seen like bits and pieces of like the other Terminator films, but she ain't seen them. You might as well just say that. She ain't seen them. So she's seen bits and pieces. But it always makes me think like, if this is linear, right? If it does take place, this is the same John Connor, same all that type of stuff. If it's not like a different pocket multiverse or anything like this, if this is linear, I wonder, how does memory work?
I was wondering
because
that.
like
I was so wondering that.
Because like do you remember having the Terminator at this time?
Or does it pop up once you send him back? You're like,
or does it
oh,
pop
I got
up
high
once you
vibes.
send-
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, like
right.
yeah,
Or does something happen along like when you're like fighting the resistance and you get a memory of the Terminator protecting you and you like, I gotta go find a Terminator to, you know what I'm saying? Like what?
Right.
So like those are the
That
conversations
popped
I
up for
like
me-
to have.
That popped up for me in like when watching Salvation,
Right.
you know, because there's
Mm.
that moment when he faces the T-800 because it's brand new at that point because they were
Right.
just that was the whole like
Mhm.
plot of that, you know, it's like, and so I'm like thinking, I'm like, oh my god, does he like at this point does he remember?
Does your brain
this
remember
version of
that,
the Terminator, or
you
is
this
like the first
version
time
that
he's
you
just
was
seen it? Yeah, it's
so
so
like
odd, yeah.
those are just aspects that I like to think about. Like, I don't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
an answer. I don't need
Right,
anybody
right.
that knows to be like, well, this is no, thank
Yeah.
you. You're going to remove the
But
fun
it's
for me.
fun,
Okay.
It's time travel, so there is no answer
it's-
because it's not something we know is for surely
Right.
real.
But no.
So, like-
no.
yeah.
The head
But
canon's fun,
yeah.
though.
But
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
time travel. And if Doctor Who has taught me anything, it's time travel, which means there's all answers. There's all kinds of answers
Right. So
that
it
you
is a
that can be
possibility, like,
possible. So it's just like, don't get bogged down by them in a sense.
Right.
But
Yeah.
But T2 for me is just, it's a film that like I know I could depend on when I put it on. It's a film that I
like
know
for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
going to have
Uh-huh.
a great time
Yeah.
when I watch it. I don't have to worry about what I'm looking at. I'm gonna be surprised every time my man steps on that checkered floor and it comes up. I'm gonna be my brain.
The Gremlins
my
2
brain.
twins.
I'm gonna lose my. I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Come on. I'm
exactly.
gonna lose.
They use twins.
I'm gonna
like,
lose my
twice in this
mind every time that happens. I'm gonna cry every time he thumbs it up and he goes. I'm gonna cry every time. I'm gonna cry every time Dyson is like. I'm gonna cry every time she breaks down because she can't shoot this child and this. I'm gonna cry every time. It's so many
She was
scenes
broken.
and moments.
Oh,
You feel
yeah.
me? It's so many scenes and moments from this film that make it amazing. And then having seen the first one and then the second one, I like that essentially because they brought back that doctor, it doesn't pick up where it left off, but you feel like you've been there the entire time, right? Like, because when you find out that she's in a mental hospital, part of me is just like, where else would she be? Like
well,
where
had
else
she
would
not gone
be?
after
In the-
Cyberdyne Systems, she'd still be down in Nicaragua. So that was kind of on her for
Right.
coming back
I
to
don't
the
know,
States.
but
Yeah.
no. But where else would she be? She couldn't sit with the knowledge that she had.
No,
Like,
they
you saw
caught
her
her
at
though.
the
They,
end,
she
and she's
she literally they caught her.
she's-
Yeah, she
was,
wouldn't have been
No.
caught.
Yeah.
If like
if she stayed
No,
away.
but what I'm saying is my point is she would have got caught regardless because she couldn't sit still.
Oh,
But
that's
she
fair.
would have always
She wanted to
done
keep trying to
something
do something.
to interfere, right?
Right.
She would always do something to interfere. So when you see her in T2, it makes sense that like these people think she's crazy and they threw her in something because she couldn't just be like, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna train my son, because essentially you asking a woman to allow her son to become the resistance leader of a future that's destroyed. And if she could stop that future from happening, as a mother, you do everything you can to protect your kid.
100%.
And they do establish
So
that
to
so that
me,
you're
like-
not that surprised when she goes and tries it again. So that was a good establishment of that.
Exactly. So like these
And on
are
top of
moments where I'm
that-
like, it makes sense that she's doing this. It makes sense that she's in this moment. You know what I'm saying? These things make sense. And you don't
Right.
get a lot of that in sequels. Sometimes
Well, on
sequels
top
don't.
of that, Dr. Silberman has that history already from the first one, you know, so he's like,
Yep.
already, like these people were crazy. Like she's
Now, how
And I love
did
that they
Silverman
brought her
really
back.
think?
I love. Yeah, he already had her before.
Well,
Yep.
yeah.
Does he really think though
love
that
that.
she killed 17 people and escaped that police department? Like that's the part about him that drives me nuts. Like, is he that disconnected that he
No.
genuinely? Because they had pictures of Schwarzenegger
He's not
of the Terminator.
He's not disconnected.
You know,
he wants to be famous.
I know
He
he's
wants to be
Dr. Phil.
famous.
I know he's the Dr. Phil of the era, and he's
He
trying
just
to become famous.
wants to be famous, and that's why I think me watching the first one is pretty dope. Finally, because to see his origin in a sense, to see where he starts. When you see him in T2, you like, this makes sense. He don't care. He don't really care.
Right.
He
When he
don't
said
really
that
care.
plenty in the first one, he's very much like, this will make my career.
Because if you think about it, from the first one to this one, Sarah essentially, if you kind of like look, like kind of like step back and look at it, even though they don't show it in the movie itself, I would consider her probably to be like slightly famous, Because look at everything that kind of happened in her name during her time. Not only did all these Sarah Connors die, but your friend died and her boyfriend died in your apartment. Sure. All this destruction followed you. Eventually, you did go to the hospital. You couldn't tell me that there weren't news people around. And I know.
Well, and the government screwed her over by stealing the shit, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like asking questions of what is this? And I'm pretty sure it got leaked out. That video got leaked out somehow, or people got a copy of it, a copy of their VHS, or however they want to do it. But like, it would make sense that he would want to keep.
It would have been Betamax, though.
Keep her locked down, crying.
So
91. No,
so there are two like little subtle things, and then there's a lot of little subtle things, but this is the one I saw 1,000 times, and I've seen it 1,000 times, and I always think of it. And then the other one I noticed today when I finished the film. I always love when he's walking down the hallway, first confronting the T-1000, and he's carrying the box of roses with a gun in it, which is great because it's a really great with long stem roses. You can hold a shotgun, but it's literally like an on-screen description of Guns N' Roses, which was the main band for the
right.
So like that was always like, oh, Guns N' Roses, they're in the movie. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, they're in the movie. I know. Yeah.
Especially since it's literally roses and it's like the exact color that they use on their albums. Anyway.
Yeah.
The other one was when Arnold kicks the desk out the window, right? And then walks out with a minigun. That cop that screamed, "Drop the weapon."
Damn.
Needs to go see like a psychologist. If a man walks out with a minigun, he's not going to be putting things down, right?
First of all, like,
that drove me nuts. I was like, what? Like, it's not even a legal reason, because as soon as he fires on you, you get to fire back. You do not have to declare I'm firing on you. Like,
that's probably why I want to play a cop and not be a cop, because there's no way I'm staying.
Right.
You can't train me to stay.
That's true. This happens again as soon as he comes to the lobby and he's walking through their bullets. And they're shooting him like it's going to have some kind of an effect. And he starts shooting their knees. Those last two guys should have been running. Like, they should have been running.
God,
listen,
I know, exactly.
They shouldn't have been in frame no more. They
Right.
shouldn't have been in frame. You got all these pawns shooting off and they ain't doing nothing.
Right.
Dip out. I'd have left.
I would have too. Like, I don't get it. Those are courageous
y'all
cops.
can take my badge and shield. You can take my shield and gun because I'm out, because I can't do this no more.
I do love when the truck comes back in, though, and they're all like limping away. I think that's one of the greatest moments.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I also love the
So-
like
It also
0.0
makes perfect sense.
casualties.
Yeah, the casualties
There's a possible-
zero.
There's it's 0.0.
Yeah, but
Like there
there's
could
at
be like
least
a
10 knee
0.2.
replacements.
Right. Yeah.
I'm thinking about like that ball joint is gone. Like, am I?
Let's
I'm
just
Right?
also like
Yeah.
point out the fact that society has proven themselves to deserve at this point to be taken over by robots, because they're that obtuse to what's going on. Like, it makes perfect sense. They wouldn't realize that the machines are uprising against them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Until it happens.
So that's
Until it happens and they're all slaves. And they're like,
For whatever reason, I just
so
thought
it
of
was
this.
true what that Sarah Connor girl back in the day was talking about.
Did we hear Ray's take on
Yeah.
something or two?
We went through, didn't we?
Yeah, we went backwards.
I would, yeah.
She's gone in the middle both times. Is yeah.
I mean, I could go again.
No, I mean, we still want. There's more. Yeah,
Ray
we
said I
want to hear
have
from
a
you.
plethora. I have a plethora. To talk
I just think it's because you guys pass me up all the time, so I just don't want to pass up.
Oh, look at Bri.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
It's this guy. This guy passes you up. Yeah, we definitely can't. I want to say one little subtle scene thing I just thought of, and then we'll ask Ray to elaborate, because we want to hear that. When Sarah is shooting at the T-1000 in the helicopter, this is one tactical moment that drives me nuts about her, because she's very tactical, but she's shooting at it instead of the rotors or the engine or another part of the helicopter. And you see the thing, like he's actually getting bullets, so he's being shot at.
I mean, she been drugged down for
I know, and she's already been
That's like-
shot and cut, and like I mean
that's a stressful situation. Like, you're not gonna be dead accurate.
True.
But yeah.
True. It's an automatic weapon. Anyway,
No, I get it.
go ahead, Ray. What do you got?
Okay, well, I would say the one thing I think that we haven't talked about is the quote that lasts throughout the whole series, which is "There's no fate but what we make for ourselves,"
Mhm.
and that
Right.
he tells the Terminator, and that's when they kind of realize that she's like left. He's like, "Hold on, where's my mom? She's gone to do all the things," and I think that it's never established, and I love the kind of ambiguity of it, that that's both positive and negative, is that the fate you create can be for your benefit or your detriment. And you see both kind of in each movie and the movies to come, is that every action you take is going to have an equal and opposite reaction. So the fight really never ends to keep the future. One, you can't stop the future is inevitable. Whether that future is going to
be
kill
great
you
or not, right?
is what the perpetual fight is for, and I love it so much.
Yeah, for me, it's like that quote honestly goes for the humans and the machines,
for sure.
And I think that's like pretty cool about it. They go for both.
I think that quote is what led me to some degree to the looping idea, where they kept screwing themselves because they kept trying to remake their future instead of drudging forward. They kept trying to remake their future instead of doing what you do, which is make your future. You can't change the past. You can't change the future, essentially.
I would say the first one was really trying to sustain. The robots were trying to change the future, but Kyle Reese's whole purpose was to prevent Sarah from dying, and in essence, John providing an opportunity for his parents to conceive him. Terminator 2 is the moment where the humans finally take a moment where they're going to go on the offensive. Terminator 1 was defensive. Terminator 2 was offensive. And then, I would, without saying anything spoilers with 3, I think it was kind of like resigning to the fate, which I think is why I didn't like it as much as previous ones, because there was this idea that the fate is happening. There's nothing we can control. We might as well just allow it to happen. And that's not, I feel like what they were really kind of originally going for when they started, going into 2. So go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I think what you're saying is relating to what I was talking about, because they do accept the fact that no matter what, this war will happen. This war should have happened in the first linear timeline that came along. It's inevitable. And since it's inevitable, they need to all focus. There's nothing wrong with the humans going back and protecting Sarah, protecting John. They have to do that. There's no choice there. They're reacting to what the monsters are doing, right? To what the robots.
The issue is that resolution is not specific to the second movie. The resolution that the future cannot be changed, unfortunately, starts in the first movie when John sends Kyle back. He's like, okay, well, this is the future, is saving me, right? Is putting them in a position. Unfortunately, he doesn't know that that's going to happen. I think he thinks that's going to happen, because what if Kyle goes back and he gets killed?
He is fighting a Terminator. It's not,
because he could be existing in a different timeline, right? The point of multiple timelines, and I actually just posted a video about shenanigans on my Star Trek page today, is when you send someone back, or when you make an attempt to change the future, you are no longer in control of the future they create. That is the fate we make, right?
Yeah.
Is Kyle, from the point in time that he's in, he sends Kyle back in hopes that everything will happen the way that it's supposed to.
Yep.
But there's no guarantee.
He has no control over that, because Kyle could be like, yo, this is nice, and he can go do whatever the hell he want to go to, if he wanted to.
On faith in the relationship he's built with Kyle, that Kyle has become the man that his mother would fall in love with. So I think that the fate part of that is always changing, because it's dependent on the faith that things will happen the way that we hope they will, or we assume that are destined. But destiny changes. It's never constant.
And honestly, if the machines could be a little bit more, if they could have a little bit more humanity, maybe a little more thought, but humans still do it, so it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I was going to say some of the things we're touching on do lead towards other movies.
Because it's interesting, because if they would have never sent the Terminator, we wouldn't have these films.
No, they would still be fighting the Terminators in the future.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if they would have never sent the Terminator, right? He would never have sent Kyle. They could have wiped her out.
See,
and been done.
Here's the thing. I
but
think
one cause and effect. One thing happens, another thing happens. But go ahead,
But
Tony.
see, regardless, so this goes back into the question of the whole grandfather paradox thing. Like, does the robots going to kill John spur the robot apocalypse? Is that really what did it? Or if they would have done nothing, would the robot apocalypse have happened? Would there have been a version of John that succeeded, and then this is the better version of John that's, by Kyle, and then all of a sudden that becomes the loop of where, because if you notice, every single time we go into one of these franchises, and you'll see this going forward, Law, every single time we go into this franchise, the humans have either delayed the apocalypse, but it still happens, and the robots get worse every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always the penultimate, the T800 or the Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, which that even changes from the first movie to the second movie.
It's because of the first movie that the T1000 exists, though.
Exactly,
Right.
and so you have that, and then you have the TX, and then you have moving forward. So the question then becomes, okay,
well, Salvation's an interesting one too, because it's like it's a weird spot, but
it's weird.
and it's almost
like a prequel in the future.
I know.
Yeah.
It is totally. It's like it's weird. Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a future prequel.
It really is.
Yeah.
So,
and then just wait till you get to Genesis. Oh my God.
So I'm sitting here talking about this.
Genesis,
I 100%. I am 100% with Ray at this point. 1,000% with Ray.
Oh.
Here's why, and this is something I thought about before tonight.
Ray said,
I know that the gear we see, the gear from the original T101 is the gear that Dyson uses to create Cyberdyne this time, second time around. And this time it can create a T1000, while before it couldn't, right? Now it can build a T1000. So it's continually using its own gear to like up itself. But I believe, if you think about it, if you go to the idea that even if there's multiple timelines or a loop, it doesn't matter with either one, but I'm going to go with multiple timelines now. You come on a linear timeline to when it would, obviously they're going to send something back to create a new timeline. When they send Reese back to create a new timeline, that is John Connor that sent him back, but it wasn't Reese's kid the first time.
Right.
It was just John Connor, just Sarah Connor's kid from another guy that she had gotten pregnant with later on. Right. But when he sends him back with a designed Reese, now you have the new timeline. And they send Schwarzenegger back in the T1000. Now it's a third timeline, and so on. I think Ray is 100% right. But there was original John Connor was not Reese's kid.
Different fates.
Okay, so every time he goes back, not only are the Terminators improving, but you're also improving the people that have to fight against these new advanced Terminators.
100%, because John Connor learns what it's like to be around a Terminator now.
Kyle the first time, yeah, because John, who sent Kyle back the first time, was not a John that could handle a T1000, but the John who then had to deal, who had the robot father, then could understand how to deal
and fought a T1000, right? And so now,
and fought a T1000, and he understood the T800 really well, which is why in Salvation there's a more understanding with the whole ending.
Right.
We're not gonna go into all that, but
I don't know.
John deals with robots. You just gotta figure that out. That's
Did you see what Kristen said, Ray? Are you seeing the chat? She said, "This is over my head, but whenever it happens and Ray is in the conversation, I agree with her."
So much.
Fine.
My dedicated followers for my track page. Ensign Birch.
Ensign Birch, right? BRICH. Ensign Birch. Okay. Well, it has been a lot. Well, we've gone over our new time, which is an hour and a half. We leave a little room for this because I knew we were gonna. This is why I didn't want to do too much at the beginning. We were going to talk about this.
For sure.
Next week. We will rate, don't worry, but I'm just going to talk about next week. Next week, we're going to obviously do Terminator Rise of the Machines, and then we'll be doing Terminator Salvation.
All downhill from here.
And
first of all, watch your mouth.
I think there might be a new perspective. I think I'm going to have a much better time with these 4 films this time around.
I will say Salvation's okay to me, but
well, we get some Christian Bale in there. We're going to get some Emilia Clarke. We're going to get some. There's some great.
I also like that there are more references to the first 2 films.
I don't remember it though, but I remember Christian Bale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Terminator 2 is a 10, Brian.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's
Ray?
basically perfect.
Right?
Yeah, 10.
10? Tony?
Absolutely a 10.
10? Blah, what do you think?
Oh damn!
Here we go.
9.5.
Oh!
I'm
That's a
kidding.
perfect for
I'm
her.
kidding.
That's a perfect.
I'm
for her.
kidding.
Yeah.
And I'm kidding. If it was a 9.5, that still would be perfect for me, but it's a 10.
You're right.
This
Exactly.
is my life. This is my whole childhood. This is a 10.
So
You're right.
those that are watching,
Yeah.
be aware this is the 5th time
Yeah.
in 242 films that we've all rated a film a 10. This has only happened 5 times.
That's hilarious. And I love that.
So-
much.
Wow.
Terminator 2
I mean,
has an honorable place in the real study.
it's
Yes.
Mhm.
That's great. I love it.
We'll send you your plaque, James Cameron. I'm
Right.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
You just
It'll be like just a little.
We know you're
Real study
watching
pin, right?
and you're excited. We
And
know
it's-
you're watching
it's
and
films-
excited. Yes.
No,
It's
why don't
films
we
like
should-
this one that gave him the money for all the Avatar movies that we have.
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
They don't
I think
care.
we should give
They
him
just
a
go,
little,
remember
like,
1991.
heart of the sea brooch, but with the real study inside. Like that'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I feel like this is the film that, like, after this film he didn't care about what the budget was, because at the time this was one of the most expensive films ever made
Yeah.
in 91, and after that he was like, okay. And I mean, and it was so successful that pretty much you just throw money at him now, so it doesn't.
Now we do
This
have to
is
give
what
it to
started
Cameron.
this.
Between this and The Abyss, CG effects were pushed really far forward because of him
Yeah.
and his effects
Oh,
teams.
there's something I learned about one of my other favorite movies that's connected to this in a way, is like no other film. There's only one other film prior to this that like really relied heavily on full CGI like effects, and that was The Last Starfighter. There hadn't been another film since then that had done like that was so ambitious,
Right.
with CG, where like The Last Starfighter actually had full computer generated large scale scenes in it, and ever since then there wasn't one until this film came along. So
in The Last Starfighter, it's like 10% of the shots. Like it's a lot of the shots. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot. Like
Yeah,
it's wild. I'm at
It's
15.
crazy
Like
how
it's,
much
but
they
it's
did,
up
yeah.
there. And before that, we had Tron, Westworld. There were others, but
Yeah,
between
exactly. Yep.
Last Starfighter and this one,
between the two, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
not that there weren't some people trying some CG effects.
No, exactly. Yeah. And like The Abyss, was definitely like a launch, springboard for what we see.
They got the lighting right. See, that's the big
Yeah.
thing. Before that,
Oh my
everything
God,
was
the
two dimensional.
lighting. Yeah,
Like
that was-
that's what sucked about it.
That was something that I was really paying attention to this time too. Was just like, what a pain in the ass it must have been for the effects teams, because these just all reflective.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's bouncing all this light, any image that's around the T1000 has to be reflective, and it like just insane job.
But on a smooth, round surface, even not like
yeah, exactly.
it's not a
smooth,
flat
like-
edge or something
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really easy to
It's
just
not-
cast a shadow on or
no.
something.
It's not
Yeah.
polygonal or anything.
No.
Yeah, it's- yeah.
You even see it like in the like when he's like melting back together, and the
Yeah.
liquid metal. It like, oh my god, when it like, first of all, the sound of it like blooping back
So-
together.
I think that's
feel like to
mercury.
go to sleep.
I think they were
It's
using real
so
metals for
beautiful.
that
Yeah.
scene. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Because the reflective
That's so-
surfaces are
that's
good
so-
in that, like really good.
That's gross. I hope nobody got sick.
Well,
I
I'm
hope
sure they
nobody-
were wearing gloves. We had known about mercury poisoning by that time that movie came
Yeah.
out. So
I
they
know,
were,
but
yeah.
people- but
And there are
people
other
still
hot metals at
goofy.
hot enough
People still
temperatures that will do
goofy.
that. Yeah, I agreed.
Yeah,
but there are
People are
safer.
so goofy.
There are
I just-
safer.
I just hope
Yeah.
everybody was
Solder will
okay.
do the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are much safer
So
ones.
it melts solder down. Like, yeah.
Um,
I'm kind of curious. How many of you guys have seen the special extended edition of this movie?
I own it.
I
Yeah.
think I have. Yeah.
I'll generally watch a director's
Not
cut
as
When
much
once.
they
as
first-
the theatrical of it. Yeah.
When they first released this, they had the Ultimate Edition for Terminator 2.
Mhm.
You had the theatrical and you had the special edition, but there was a third edition on the DVD and the Blu-ray. But you had to enter in the code 822997,
Mhm.
which was August 29th,
Right,
1997, which was
Judgment
Judgment
Day, yeah.
Day, and it gave you the extended scenes that added the T1000 searching through John's room, and then the
Oh,
alternate
yeah.
ending where you saw John as an old man.
Also, wasn't there like the ones like those little bits of like the T1000 like kind of malfunctioning, where he like grabs like this like red or yellow and black rail, and his hand turns yellow and black, and he has to like shake it off and go back to normal. There's like
Yeah, the T1000 was
Yeah.
having
I'm glad he
glitches
didn't
because of the
malfunction.
accident. And then you had the whole
Yeah, yeah.
argument. Yeah, and then you had the old argument between John and
Yeah.
Sarah because Sarah was going to destroy the T1000 or the T100.
Yeah.
So
so I
Huh.
yes, yeah. They're fun little bits. It does make it much longer, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's worth it.
Worth it. Any other thoughts on Terminator 2 before we call it an evening? I just know we all love it so much, and I want to make sure we
keep talking
because
about
I think
it,
what I think what I want to say, I have to wait until I watch all 6 films.
Okay,
so.
that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
probably yeah, because you're probably gonna touch on a bunch of stuff that's in the other films.
Yeah,
Get
Yeah.
some.
I
Get
think
some
I
have
have
already.
a lot to say. I
Yeah.
have a lot to say, so I'm just gonna zip it up till we're finished.
Well, but maybe we'll leave a little extra time on the last episode to where we can like wrap up and talk about all of them. Or we won't have much to say about the films themselves, and we'll roll right into that.
Right.
There's a good chance of that too. So,
Or we can always come
We'll be all Terminator
come
out.
in, not like and just record something to put out, like
now.
special episode.
Ray is
that's
offended.
That's not recorded live, just record it.
I will have
Oh, why are
lots
you
to say
offended?
about the last 2 movies? Lots.
you have lots to say about them.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I
that's
love
what I'm
Emilia
saying. Maybe
Clarke,
we should have
so
like a
I don't have a problem with that movie.
special. Maybe we should have like a special
Notes
episode.
out about the Terminator. I got lots to say.
The
I'll
only
fill up
problem-
the time myself if I need to.
The only problem I have with Genesis is it's the only PG-13 rated Terminator movie, and that's really odd to me. Like, why are you rocking PG-13 on a Terminator movie? It just
because they
doesn't feel
want
right.
all the people to
Yeah,
go.
we all
see
watched it
Bring it
even
up.
before we were.
Well,
look at Tony; he was 11. Like,
I
come
know.
on, there's no
Yeah.
reason to do that. Just put him in R. And
when Terminator 3 came
Yes,
out, I
it
wondered
is.
why it
Time
was
to
rated the way it
change.
was. Like,
yeah, but Dark Fate is R, so like that doesn't make like why would you go back to R and go that heavy if you're gonna lighten? I don't know. It just feels.
because they were trying to
Right.
retcon, like they were trying to make Dark Fate make 3 and Genesis not exist.
Also, I think it was
like,
some nostalgia bait there
Yeah.
too
That's
Yeah.
fair
with
too.
Dark Fate.
Not much
Yeah,
to say.
Anyway,
Never seen it.
anyway, we will be
I'm-
talking about those
don't make me
films,
wanna come
obviously.
back.
we'll get those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tony, are we going to expect you next week as well? Are you staying for the whole saga? Because we do want you for the whole saga. We gotta have a naysayer.
Busting out the top, then I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Okay, yeah. I'll be back next week.
Okay, yeah. He's gonna be in here.
You're gonna make
forever.
me want to watch. You're gonna make me have to watch. I've
I
literally only
l-
watched. I've
I
only watched
love
Rise
how
of the
you had to
Machines
twist
once.
his
Me too.
arm.
This will be my second time, so I'm with
I've
you.
only seen it once too.
One
Yeah.
time.
I've only seen it once.
Once I was like, and I walked away.
Yeah. I was like
And
I
let me
did,
tell
I
you
did like
something.
the whole like chase scene with the construction vehicle. I thought that was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
And
Those were
and
about it.
like the moment where you see the coffin, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done.
yeah.
But same thing. When Salvation came
God.
out, the only reason I went and watched it, honestly, was because Christian Bale was in it. I was like, all right, Christian
Wow,
Bale's
that's-
good. I'll watch him. That's the only reason. And then I was like, okay, this is actually good.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen.
Work
cut out for me,
Actually,
clearly.
I haven't seen 3 through 6, so 3 through 6 are just. I mean, I've seen Genesis, but I couldn't tell you like what I remember. I've seen Salvation because I remember Christian Bale, because he's John Connor, isn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't he play John Connor?
Spoiler
So
alert.
I slightly remember that, but I can't. We're spoiler show. You remember?
That's
I
true.
can't.
Well, he was
I
saying
can't
spoilers for
for
you.
the life
No,
of
wait.
me-
No, he wasn't.
I can't for the life of me like be like, oh yeah, this is what he did in that movie. This is what they did. I can't.
There was a Terminator in it.
And the only reason I watch Genesis is because Matt Smith. That's it.
Yeah.
Matt
That's the only
Smith.
reason.
Genesis
For
ruined
you to watch
careers.
3 through 6, I'm gonna prepare myself because I'm nervous. I'm so nervous.
Wait, Ray, did you like 3?
No, but that's not the point.
Well, why am I coming on being
Yeah.
a naysayer? Like, what? I didn't like 3 at all.
But I
This
don't.
is a
I
little
will say-
preview for
I've
next
seen
week,
it at
guys.
least multiple dozens of times though. So the,
But
like
you
the,
see-
the
Oh,
whether
yeah.
I like it and the story continuity is completely separate things.
See,
That's
here's
fair.
also a thing. Like
That's fair.
I was coming into this movie excited. I was coming to 3 excited, and I'll be honest with you, they did so many specials because they knew that they thought that people would be upset with there being a female Terminator coming in. That
Mhm.
wasn't.
No, I don't care.
One part of it bothered me. The billboard, and then
Mhm.
Oh, is that the little blonde hair girl?
But
Yeah,
other than
yeah.
that, she was good compared to everything else. that
Did
was
I see
terrible in
Dark
that
Fate?
film.
So Dark Fate,
That's not
yeah,
Dark Fate.
is the girl
This is
from
Dark
*Halt and
Fate.
Catch
Dark
Fire*.
Fate's
That's the girl with the
That's
short
fine.
blonde hair.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
No, but I'm talking about
Is
Rise
she
of the
from- is
Machines.
that
The
Dark
female
Fate?
Terminator
Rise
is
of,
now-
Rise of the Machines, though, is what he's talking
That's
about.
Rise of the Machines.
Yeah,
Okay,
Rise of the
thank you.
Machines.
I
Well,
was
there's
like,
there's a
which one
girl
is that?
Terminator in two
No.
of them, but anyway.
Right. Dark Fate is the not that one.
Yeah, I think conceptually,
I'm
I
talking
think
about what
she-
y'all talking about.
I think she did well with what she was given, but I think that
Yeah.
yeah,
Tony's giving us a pre-review right now.
I
Yeah, it's rough. Some rough dialogue in that one. Yeah, too. But anyway.
you know,
Is it
Edward
because she's
Furlong
a
was
girl
supposed to
too?
come back as John Connor in that.
Oh, I
movie.
always forget it's Claire Danes
Like,
as
he just-
his love interest. I always forget that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brewster.
Edward Furlong was supposed to come back, but for
Man,
personal reasons, he
For a
had to back
long
out.
time, they was just
For good
throwing Claire
reason.
Danes
Nick
and stuff
Stahl's
to be
good.
like, let's
I
see
like
what she
Nick Stahl.
do. And I'm just kind of like, okay, Claire, do you boo?
I totally forgot that Kyle Reese is played by Anton Yelchin in Terminator Salvation. That's like
Yeah.
weird.
It's like the first time
Missed
they
that guy.
R.I.P.
Anyway,
Yep.
this has been a long-winded yet for a good reason real study. We have covered the first two Terminator movies,
But
and
the
of course,
most on time we've ever been.
well, at least in the at least for
Very
this
much on
season.
time.
This season, last season we were on time.
Very on time.
Yeah,
Very on
it's
time.
the early. It's early. I don't know. We're also waiting for our guests to show up and watch. The show. We have to wait for them before we can start. So, and I don't mean you guys. I mean the viewers.
No, for sure.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I was trying to get in.
No, you were here. No, not you. I'm not. The viewers have to arrive, and then they'll. Anyway,
Yeah, Ray.
I'm kidding.
We were waiting all day, Ray. My God. My God.
Join us next week
here.
for Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines and Terminator Salvation. This has been week 10 of season 3 of The Real Study. Have a great evening, all.
Bye, you guys. Follow us
Thanks,
everywhere.
everyone.
All social media. Share, like, comment.
I'll hate
Bye.
you guys later for making me watch the third movie again.
First
Yeah.
of all.
You love us. Don't be
Bye,
like
guys.
that.